So let me open up the book here. We're on learning Kriat Shemah. So going through this to try to keep moving along, getting all of these ideas in and saying them as best I can. So we had discussed previously the origin of the light that comes immediately or directly passes through to Abba Ve'ima, who are responsible for bringing Shepha from the Most High into Zeranpin. Ultimately, we are I always say reverse hologram, but let's say that we are a manifestation of their unpin, and what happens is their unpin can only be directed from us because all of the shefa that comes to us and comes anywhere to their unpin, and then ultimately into Malchus and then to us, all of that comes as a result of our Torah and our prayer. But it has to come from us. That was the original idea when we were learning about Adam Rishon, that we were learning about what he could have accomplished but didn't, and so therefore we're in the middle of trying to re-accomplish this, and that is our tikkun. So he says, here we are, we're reading the Rav here, and we're on page Nun Gimel in the Shara Kavanas. We're using the Tivik Kavanas. And it says here, Kriat Shemah the Aravit. So we talked about previously the locations of the Shefa that came to Zer Anpin from the first most powerful Shefa that comes through Abba Ve'ima and their Yichud into Zer Anpin, has its origin from a place which that light of the Ein Sof is lodged in the Yitzonius of Atik. And it's important to remember that the Kitzonius is the most Gerua part, it's the least part. The Panemius is the greater part. But in the case of Atik, the light there is much too powerful for us here. So therefore, there's no lodging of that light. There's no source for the stimulation that comes from Abba Ve'ima there. Then the next Kriat Shema that he takes is the Kriat Shema of the Karbanos. Now this is a little bit out of order, but it's there over there. The Kriat Shema comes from the Panemius of Eric Anpin, which is outside of Atik. And so therefore you're in a more Hitzoni place to begin with, but you're in the Panemius part of that. So try to follow the language as best you can. So he said, and now we're going to come to Aravit. What happens in the Kriat Shema of Aravit? How does it work? So it's a Kriat Shema the Aravit, Gerua me Kriat Shema the Sefer Kabbonis. It's inferior to that. In other words, the power to be able to draw down Shefa is less. Kibamidas Yisrael, and the word Yisrael, again, the magic words in the Shema, that's the second word. They're all magic words, but in this particular metaphor we're working on, it says that the second word, which is the word Yisrael, brings down Mochin Dekatnas. Eina Nikna Bazah Rak HaPanimi da Abba, only the Panimi da Abba, not the Makif of Abba, the Katnas Bavad. Makif the Ima Kuvar call you Bo Bezachila, because the Makif of Ima, all the Makifim of Ima are already in her. So now we're bringing down what? We're bringing out the Panimi of Abba, the Katnas Bavad. Now, so get the listener more confused is that you have these ideas of what is light and what is, let's say, the parts. So the light itself is divided into a panimi and a makif. In this case, the panimi is the weaker of the lights. That's the part that actually goes into Zer Anpin, ultimately through Malchus to us. And then there's a light that's much stronger, which is outside, and this is called the Lamed Mem of the Tzelem. And these lights have to shine from the outside because they're too strong to go into Zer Anpin and even to us, but they can, exactly how this works, very, very mysterious. So over here, we're talking about this fancy word, or this famous word, Yisroel. When you say the word Yisroel, Mochin Dekatnas come in. Which Mochin Dekatnas, he says? Kibamilas Yisroel, Einu Nikna Bezah Raf. The only thing comes into Zah is a Panimi the Abba, the Kata Bilvad. Only the Panimi of Abba, that's the or Panimi of Abba, only. Makif the Ima Kavar Koyubo Bezachila, because they already had the Panimi and the Makif of Ima. So that's what comes in at this point. Let's look over here at number Yud Dalet. And it says like this. Lifnei Amiris Kriat Shema, before you say the Kriat Shema, he's trying to help us out here, give us as much background as he can. The Arvis, now we're at Marav, right? Kavar Koyel the Zer Anpin, Kol HaMochen Dekatan Besad Ima, already you saw in Zer Anpin all of the Mochen Dekatnas that came in from the side of Ima. The Hainu Hatzadik the Katnas, the Ima, Sheyesh Lo Tomit, the Ima always has a minimum of the Tzadik the Tzalim, that is the part that goes into her. V'gam Halamed Mem the Katnas, the Ima, also those came in too. So there's only one small madrega that comes into Malchus. The Hainu Tzadi the Katnas, that is the Tzadi the Katnas, the Mitzad Abba Levad. That's the only part that comes in. Is that the Tzadi of the Tzalim is the only part that comes in. The Lamed Mem do not. So that we say that it's less than the Kriya Shema de Kabbalah. There you saw that two madregas came in at the same time. Makif de Ima, Ubenimi de Abba. Now the idea is that the more continence that you have inside of you is the greater draw that you're able to. Well, it actually goes the other way. It's the greater elevation that you can get from your Mayim Nukvin because of the negative energy that comes from continence. You have more of it. You're able to bring down light from a much higher place. Let's see a little bit here. But Tevis Echad. So excuse me. So he wants the Madreg B'Yachad Makif the Ima the Abba. Moving on, he said, "B'tevis echad." Let me see if I got in the right place here. Test vav. So when you say the word echad, this is the point of yichud. A nikna b'zah b'shnei madregas b'yachad then comes into their anpin two different levels together. Behind the lamed mem the kat mitzad abba, because the katna still is not complete. So when you say the word echad, the echad is really once again is coming from the bottom where we are. And we say the word echad, this rises all the way up through Yehudim to the Most High, bringing back down Shemah. The question is that since you didn't have that much loaded in the gun to begin with when you brought it up, so therefore you have to get it when the after the word echad, so it's going to be weaker to start with. And this is the idea that's really important to understand. All brachas, for anybody ever wants a bracha, depends on what we're doing here. The more sincere, the more close we are to try to get to the words that they understand, to be personalized, the relationship between us and the Ein Sof Baruch Hu in terms of speaking or speaking to Him in terms of what the things that we need, the things that we lack. The more we lack, the stronger the Shefa. That's what he's saying. Basically, the more we lack, the stronger the Shefa. So I guess it would be maybe I say it a different way. When we have within us all the things we lack, and we can offer those up to Hashem, then the more is the Shefa. If everything that's coming in, we don't have everything to offer to Hashem, so therefore the Shefa would be less coming back to us. Gamashisha Kitzvos, the godless mitzad ima, so you see that it comes in now together, the Lamed men of Katnis, along with the Vok of Ima. So here we see that before, in the Karbanos, the origin of the light that gets transferred directly, and I guess it means like this, the DNA, this is the best I can say right now, the DNA of the Kitzonius of a Rich is now going to go directly through different stages, but just as pass-throughs into Abba Ve'ima, who are going to deliver that DNA into Zeranpin. Masha Ein came by Kriya Shema the Karbanos, which is not the same kind by Kriya Shema the Karbanos. Shaz Nimshal HaMochen the Godless, because then you see that the Mochen of Godless, Mina Penimia Erekan, they're coming for the Penimius of Erekan, because there was more loaded to begin with in the mind Nukvit. Now we're going to go here to number test Zion. So we're right here on this page, and if there's a page number, if you have the book. So now you're coming to the nighttime. So when you're going to sleep, and you say Kriya Shema at that time. And we had said previously you have to say all three parakim of the Kriya Shema. Because when you say, what happens now? When you say the word Yisrael, the only thing that comes into Ima in terms of katnis is the makif. Bilvad. So he said, Ki kavar bi'arno, because we've already explained. Ki la'olam I afsher lezah sheyachazer b'menach ha'penimi de'ima de'mocha de'katnis, because zer anpin. He's saying like this. I'll read the words and then I'll say it the way I think I understand it. Ki la'olam, it's always true. I afsher lezah, zer anpin must have inside of himself sheyachazer b'menach ha'penimi de'ima. He always has to have the or penimi of ima. which is the weakest of the lights that are coming from Ima, because it's also a Lamed Mem of Ima that's on the outside, which you said is too great to be able to come into Ima. So now this is the Penimi, the Mochen Dekat. So that's all he has. He only has, at this point, he's saying that this is the very minimum amount. Let's look at number Tes Zion. It's right here at the bottom of this little page. So he says, Kriya Shema Sha'alamita. It is inferior in its less, it's less, yeah, I'll use the word inferior. It's the weakest of all of them. He said, and the reason why is this, that before we say the Kriya Shema, he had only at this time of the day, Zer Anpin has lost whatever was in him before. He has only the bare necessity. Now, this is the time right before you go to sleep. And so, therefore, what Za is particularly weak in terms of the katnus that's with him. And let's see what else he says. So he has those mochin that he absolutely has to have to be alive. And this is called the tzadi of the tzelem on the side of Ima. And so when a person says the word Yisrael, then Za is able to pick up the Lamed Mendekatas, the Ima Davad. That's all he gets. So he gets the Makifim. So you say Yisrael over here, then the Makifim come into Zer Anpin. And what does Zer Anpin have in him now? He has apparently no mochin, where I'm reading it so far, is he has all of the mochin of Ima. When you say the word Yisrael, comes in these two mochin, the Lamed Mem of Ima, but there's nothing besides on the side of Sa. But Nimsa Shebe'ez Amiras Tevis Yisrael, Chaser Adayim the Zerach Shnei Madrego Shalokatas the Abba, he's missing both the Penima, the Haina Penima, and the Makif is missing both of them. So in other words, the pump is not really completely and totally loaded. It's loaded with the very minimum. When you say the word echad now, which is the time when the yichud takes place, then three different elements, that becomes, so he said like this, the way I understand it now, is that before the mochin the godless can come in, all of the mochin the godless have to come first. That's always the rule. So when you say the word echad, Tevis echad, niknas bezah shlosha medrega beyachad, three different medregas come into Zer Anpin at the same time. The Hainit Tzadi, the Lamed Mem, that is the Tzadi, and the Lamed Mem, the Mochen Dekata beside Abba. All of the entire Mochen of Abba were not in, but it's along with it the Shisha Kitzvahs, the Mochen Dekata besadim. Now let me see where I'm at. We got a little bit more to do here. So since there was so little for that Zab was actually composed of, that is in terms of these Mochen, the Mochen Dekatnas, so therefore there's not much to offer up. So so if you had a tremendous amount of light come down, there would be no kalim to receive it. There's no katnus there. Very little katnus is only just coming in now. So therefore, from this point, Abba ve'ima are only able to bring the mochen of the gadlut zah ela makitzonius Abba ve'ima atzman. So it only comes from Abba ve'ima themselves. In other words, it passed all the way through all the madregas up above. Or that is the madrega of Atik. Or you can go deeper than Atik. Go the Av Sag, the Ap, and the Ak, and then it passed through the Olam Akudim, and it eventually winds up in the Olam Atikun, and it goes through the Atik, and it goes through Eric Anpin, but those are not places where the light can pick up the DNA. It can only pick it up at this time from the Chitzonius of Abba Ve'ima. And that's because the light that went up originally was much weaker, and not from a higher place than that. Now let's do one more. I think there's one more we can do here. I think. So it said Harav Mevar Lama Lo Mamshichem Mipinimius Abba Ve'ima Atzman. So apparently this was something, I didn't read it, so let me read it real quickly. It said V'midas Echad. Let's come to the word Echad. Niknasim Bo Panimi Umakit Abba de Katnus. All of the Katnus now comes into Abba. Im Shesha Kitzvos the Mochin the godless. There was nothing in Abba before, but now he said the Kitzvos the Shesha Kitzvos the Mochin the godless. Va'oz ein Abba ve'ima mamshichan lechem b'mochin. They're not able to bring. They're only able to bring mochin. Ela bechitzonius Abba ve'ima atz from the chitzonius of Abba ve'ima themselves. Keep benimius atzman because from their own penimius ein shum zman shiyim shukul mochin. There's no time when that area could be used to bring down mochin. So then he says, okay, yeah. Okay, so here's the last one that we're going to do here. It's going to be number Yud Test. Rav Mivayr Lama. Rav has explained why. Mamshichan from Benimius Abba Ve'ima Atzma. I think the word that was the word lo there. Let's say lo, yeah. See, which is why there was that everything is not coming from the Benimius of Abba. It usually goes like this. If you're talking about Kitzoni and Benimi in terms of the parts, that's the physicality of it, let's say, so to speak, or its system. There's going to be an inside part and an outside part. In terms of the parts of itself, the inside is the more chashuv, because that's where the light of the Ein Sof is located. The outside is more like a transfer area that really relates to the next parts of which is below it. In terms of light though, oros, there you have a different set of words that are very similar. The or panimi is the lesser the light, and the or makif, which is not able to come into Zeranpin, or to also say from the outside, is too strong. So therefore, there remains outside, and they are called the makifim. Now that's the difference between oros and kalim, or oros and patzufim, and like that. So let's finish up here. Why doesn't it come from there? For example, you had some came from the Penimius of Rik, some came from the Kitsonis of Rik. So why is it that the order is like this? So then, after the Chitzonius of Arich, then you should come to the Chitzonius of Abba Ve'ima. Why didn't go to the Penimius of Abba Ve'ima? Lama Medalgim Medrega Penimius Abba Ve'ima. Why do we skip that? So therefore the Rabbah says, there is no time that the DNA of the Pneumius of Abba Ve'ima would ever go into Zeranpin. So after the Chitzonius Arich, Ba'Chitzonius Abba Ve'ima, then you see the beginning of the Chitzonius of Abba Ve'ima, and that's where we stop today. This is Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator, Kolal, Adkan.